Welcome back to Computex 2024, and AMD have started off with a bang on their keynote announcing the Ryzen 9000 series CPUs. And we're going to go over these CPUs in today's video, also talking about the used market and the value proposition these CPUs could have and what you should do right now if you're looking to build a gaming PC. Now, I also came out of NVIDIA's keynote last night, but there was just nothing for gamers. It was just all AI. I think they said gaming once during the presentation, but that was off the back of talking about AI. Anyhow, this announcement did have a lot of AI in it too, but there was at least a bit there for gamers, especially at the start of the presentation. And what we had here was 4 new CPUs announced from AMD: the Ryzen 9 9950X, the 9900X, and then the Ryzen 7 9700X and the Ryzen 5 9600X. Now, the biggest one here was their flagship CPU, coming in with the same core count as the previous 7950X at 16 cores, 32 threads. However, this time they're offering a 16% uplift on all their Zen 5 CPUs over the Zen 4 CPUs. And when we look at the details here, the performance uplift is coming mainly from their restructuring of the front end of the CPU. So they're saying there is now double the data bandwidth from the level 2 cache to the level 1 cache, as well as the level 1 cache to the floating point units. And what I believe here is this will ultimately spell better gains for gamers, especially if they don't have an X3D CPU. But we'll talk about the current X3D lineup versus the new gaming CPUs right after today's video sponsor.
Computex 2024 is brought to you by Aorus and their new lineup of OLED gaming monitors featuring the Faux 32U2P, which is the first 32-inch OLED monitor to support DisplayPort 2.1, as well as having a refresh rate of 240Hz at 4K. Then there's the Faux 27Q3, a 27-inch 1440p with a whopping refresh rate of 360Hz. All these monitors have incredibly fast response times and variable refresh rate, HDMI 2.1, as well as a built-in keyboard, video, and mouse switch. And the best thing is there's built-in Aorus OLED Care to minimize the risk of burn-in. Links in the description below to find out more.
So looking at the performance uplift of the new Zen 5 CPUs, AMD has pointed towards a 16% uplift on average, tested across a geo mean of 13 different benchmarks, with their Far Cry 6 benchmark showing a 10% uplift, and then the best case scenario Geekbench showing a 35% uplift. However, this 35% uplift is skewing the data a little bit here, as they have introduced AVX 512 instruction sets. So if a benchmark utilizes these new instruction sets, it could get much bigger of an uplift versus, say, the Ryzen 7000 counterparts. So realistically, you could probably expect between 10 to 20% in a lot of different applications, but it's still great to see AMD delivering a generation on generation IPC uplift that is solid over the predecessor. Though digging a little bit deeper into the details, or should I say, lack of details, we didn't get any official pricing as of just yet, and also we didn't get an exact release date, which is just saying it's coming in July 2024. And with the lack of pricing, I would guess that at best you're going to have either the same pricing as the previous generation launch, or you could even have a price hike, because I feel if the pricing was better, that's something that you would usually announce. So this then brings us to the most important part of the video: the gaming performance. What can you expect as a gamer from Ryzen 9000? They just said it was going to be the fastest consumer CPUs available. However, we already know we've got the X3D variants out there, the Ryzen 7 7800 X3D being especially a favorite amongst gamers right now, and then also the Ryzen 5 7500F just hitting in with such hard value. Actually, I've looked at this CPU recently, and it is one of the best CPUs to buy right now, with the price being around $125 shipped to your door. And so we compare that to what I'm guessing is going to be a similar pricing to previous generation on the Ryzen 5 9600X at perhaps $299. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you're a gamer to wait for this CPU launch when you can go out and get a Ryzen 5 7500F if you're on a budget, or if you're looking for top-end gaming performance, going out and getting a Ryzen 7 7800 X3D, which is coming a little over $300 USD at this point, and of course carries 8 cores, 16 threads. Furthermore, looking into those gaming benchmark numbers when they pull up a slide comparing it to the i9 14900, they're showing that the 9950X does beat out the 14900. But if we look at the details deep in the notes, they are using DDR5 6000 on both the Ryzen 9 9950X as well as the i9 14900KS. And now the KS, I do believe, can support much higher memory speeds, even up to that of 8000, which it does benefit in the gaming benchmarks from using better DDR5 memory, as opposed to the Ryzen 9, at least if we look at the Ryzen 9 7950X, that does cap out with the best gaming performance at around 6200 MHz. Despite it being able to support much higher memory speeds, it does so at lower gear ratios, which means that the performance does take a slight hit versus a better gear ratio at, say, 6200 MHz. However, this does lead us on to another important detail that was missing in the presentation, and that was what node specifically is the Ryzen 9000 series CPUs using. And as we see with those memory benchmarks, AMD using the DDR5 6000 speed, I would say they're using the same actual node or lithography on the I/O die as they're using on their previous Ryzen 7000. However, since we are getting actually quite a big uplift in efficiency, if we just look at the slides, say for instance the Ryzen 7 9700X and also the Ryzen 9 9900X coming in with similar and higher clock speeds and also much lower TDP, it would indicate that they're using a better node for the actual die itself. And if we had to look at the most likely candidate here, it would be going from a TSMC 5nm to a TSM 4nm, which gives roughly, I think, a 20% uplift in efficiency, as well as a performance uplift of roughly 10%. So these gains together is where you're getting the better efficiency gains on the Ryzen 9000 series, which is a welcome addition, especially for people who are going to be maxing out, say, the 9950X in workloads, and they're paying a lot for power. Now, these new CPUs will be launching alongside the new chipset, the 800 series, with the X870 hitting the market first. Though one big important note with the motherboards is that they previously said AM5 was going to have support until 2025, but AMD in this keynote did say something really good, and that was the support is now going to 2027 and beyond. And they also are releasing some new AM4 CPUs, I believe the 5900 XT and the 5800 XT, which the 5900 XT will actually be now 16 cores, 32 threads. So still offering support for AM4 is also a really good win too, for not just gamers, but people who are perhaps doing workloads on a budget. So summing up today's keynote, if you're a gamer, I would definitely just be waiting for the benchmarks. Don't pre-order anything, just to see what the raw deal is, and we'll also be having those benchmarks coming out to you guys as soon as we can. However, if you are on the productivity side of the fence and time is money, then it looks like especially that Ryzen 9 9950X could be a very good addition to your workstation. So I think that is where these CPUs are definitely going to be more suited, especially if you're into getting stuff on day one. However, sadly, there was no talk of RDNA 4, which I'm sure a lot of people are hanging out for, myself included, just to get any sort of detail as to what AMD might be launching on the GPU side of things, but unfortunately we just didn't get that here today. Anyhow guys, with that aside, I hope you enjoyed the first day of Computex coverage here in Taiwan. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button. Also let us know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about the Ryzen 9000 series announcement? Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always, and I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. If you have stayed this far and you're enjoying that tech yes content and you're not yet subbed, then you can hit that sub button, ring that bell, get the content as soon as it drops, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out for now. Bye.